basic features what OneStream is providing. We will be talking about the business rule aspects. What is OneStream API? Okay, then we'll talk about the OneStream XF API and the BR APIs we have. We'll talk about different engines we have in OneStream. The business rule classification, right? High level, it is a shared business rule or a specific business rule. How a VB.NET program looks like, and a simple financial rule, how it will look in OneStream, and what are the different components it has, right? And a fully qualified name of a particular namespace. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to cover, and uh, we'll mostly talk about the different features what OneStream is giving and how it is helping business to solve the business problems. Okay, so is there any question before we jump into these items from anyone? Okay. So I'll start. OneStream is founded in 2010, that you must have all aware, by Tom Seah, and a team in the industry venture uh, who previously developed a tool and that we know today as Hyperion, right? And so they were the developers of that tool, and the same person with the industry venture of team built this software, right? And most of the feature that you see in OneStream is like it will be matching with other tools that are available in the market. OneStream is not the only tool that is available, right? We have Anaplan, we have Hyperion, we have TigerTech, right? And what OneStream is saying while selling this tool is it's a unified tool or a unified platform. Why it is like that? Because what OneStream used to say is it's a one tool for entire solution. Like OneStream can do analytics, OneStream can do consolidation and reporting, OneStream can do planning, budgeting, and forecasting, right? And for the same kind of activities, Hyperion have different tools. Hyperion have Hyperion planning for planning, right? Hyperion has FCCS for its cloud-based consolidation. They have HFM for their on-premise based consolidation, right? They have EDMCS for metadata, right? They have DMW or data management for integration, right? And what Hyperion is doing, it is actually selling all these different tools uh, with different licensing, right? So it's like we have to buy different tools and then club it together and then use it. But what OneStream is doing, it's like one solution for everything, right? It's like you have to just buy OneStream and all these things and everything comes as a package with 50 plus solutions. And you can see there's a term that they used to do, they use is marketplace solution. So this is the place where all the different solutions are available uh, that are built by OneStream, and it can be downloaded from there and import to your OneStream application so that you can increase the capabilities. Like if you want to do a people planning or workforce planning, you can download a solution and import it to OneStream. You can do capital planning, cash planning, think planning. All these are hybrid solutions that OneStream has created, and that it can be downloaded from the platform and imported in your solution. So OneStream, is actually available in two ways. One is the on-prem version, and second is the SaaS version or the cloud version. Okay, so this is how OneStream can be used. And if I talk about the different features and the functionalities and capabilities OneStream is giving, so there are multiple ways to explain that. Okay, so uh, if I explain this, what OneStream used to say is OneStream is an intelligent financial platform with a unified solution, and it simplifies the enterprise financial processes. So what it mean actually? So we call it as a smart tool because all the EPM tools are quite smart, so that it can incorporate any kind of business to it, right? And it can handle all kind of financial tasks. The task can be tracking of a money, doing budgeting, reporting, and it helps simplifies these tasks by bringing everything together in one place, right? Because we may have different applications to hold the data. Like we have ERP systems where it can be used for as a transaction system. So OneStream itself is not generating numbers. It is uh, get fed by all the different tools, and then on top of that it is doing the reporting, because it's a reporting tool, right, where we have to feed the numbers so that it can be consolidated, or it can be uh, clubbed together in at one place, and so that business don't need to switch between different tools, right? We may be using Workday for workforce management. We may be using for using PeopleSoft. We may be using SAP for transactional based systems, right? So all the different ERPs are generally for transaction systems, but this is for reporting. That is to at high level, right? But we can do planning, budgeting, forecasting as well on this one stream. Okay. So as I mentioned that the included features that comes along with this is the consolidation, planning, reporting, analytics, and the financial data quality control. Okay. So when I'm saying quality control, right? So quality control means whenever we are interacting with the data or preparing the data so that it can be loaded into OneStream, we can add so many level of quality checks, right? At the time of importing data to OneStream, we can have some rules that will validate whether the data is right as per the quality. Example, let's say if I'm loading expense data, it should be system is designed in such a way that it should be a negative numbers, right? So in that case, all these quality checks can be implemented. Okay, and so the added feature that comes with this is it is flexible, adaptive, right, and it is capable to adapt the different unique needs of different organization, right? So it means OneStream can adjust to the specific business needs, right? Whether the company is small or large, or OneStream can be customized to fit the financial processes, right? So the capability makes it very flexible in terms of incorporating different kind of business to it, right? And other things that I'll say, uh, it supports strategic financial and operational planning process, and we can create budget reports to see how much to spend or save, right? We can do forecasting to do a predicting future financial outcomes, right? And we may have a different financial models, right, for different financial scenarios to see how the decisions will, because these financial reports affect the company decisions, right? So they play a really important role. Okay, so coming back to the multiple ERP systems, OneStream gives a really good flexibility to interact or do integration with different tools, right? So it can do integration to all those different ERP systems, and for that, OneStream has given an option called connectors. So using connectors, we can connect with these external systems. It can be a direct database connection. It can be a direct ERP connections, right? Or it can be directly connected to an external location or a shared drive where the data can be pulled off. Even OneStream gives out of box APIs, and these APIs can be called outside of OneStream. Only thing is on the server where OneStream is installed should be whitelisted for that particular external connection to come here. Okay, and there's one really important feature that I want to talk about here is the drill down functionality. Okay, when I'm saying the drill down functionality in OneStream refers to the ability to access detail level data by moving from a summary or consolidated level data, right? Or the more granular level of data. Okay. And why I'm highlighting this? Because this is one of the, I'll say, added feature that we get here specifically for the end users. So what they can do, it allows users to view data at different levels or the hierarchies or the complexity provided, uh, or a more detailed insight into the data. Okay. So to understand it more, what we can, I can take an example. So consider, let's say, a multinational corporation that is using OneStream, okay, for their financial consolidation and reporting. So the CEO can view the total revenue of the company at global level. Okay. However, they want to analyze which region are performing well, which are not, using the drill down functionality. So what they can do, they can click on the total revenue figure, and the system will give you the breakdown of the revenue by region, right? By North America, Europe, Asia, etc. Okay. And the CEO can further drill down into a specific region to see the revenue by country and by different business units, right? Within the country. Okay. So until they reach the transactional level data or the granular level data, the functionality allows them to identify the different trends, issues, or the opportunities at various level of the business, right? And if I sum up, this drill down functionality allows users to navigate from high level aggregate data to more detailed level of the data, right? And it gives them a very thorough understanding of the data that they are actually visualizing, and helping them to do the strategic decision making. Okay, so this feature is available on the different reports that we will be populating, right? This report will be available on different dashboards that OneStream will be giving, right? So it's not like that user has to install something separately. There is a client that we will be using, and it is really good in terms of Excel integration. So along with OneStream, there's a Excel add-in also comes in. Okay, so in that add-in, you can actually connect with OneStream and pull the data directly from the cubes, and that data will be populated as a report or as a grid in your Excel. And you all know that any tool in the market which can be a direct connection with Excel, right? So user will like it because they must have already doing all their financial statements or consolidation within the Excel. Now, if a tool is coming which is adding, giving one more level of granularity on top of it, so that they can see a lot of data in their Excel, right, and can interact with their existing report. So this is one of the major reasons of these tools' success, because they can interact seamlessly with OneStream, with Excels. Okay, so I'll not go very deep on these different aspects. We will be mostly focusing on the business rules here, because this session is mostly on the business rule side. So we will directly jump to the business rules unless anyone is having any questions. Okay. So as I said, business rule is nothing but one component in OneStream. Okay. So business rule is looks it's clear with its name itself, right? It refers the predefined set of instructions or the guidelines that decides the transformation, validation, and process of the financial data. Okay, so when I'm saying business rule, OneStream has classified this into 11 different categories within OneStream, and these categories are divided in such a way that based on the need or the requirement. Okay, it can be divided. Example, if I have to write a calculation for the financial calculation or a cube calculation, I will be writing a financial rule. If I'm writing a calculation for reports, it will be an extender rule. If I'm writing a calculation or a business rule within OneStream to handle some data transformation, it will be a conditional rule, right? So this way, there are 11 categories. We will be talking about all the different categories in different sessions in very detail with some real use cases, so that you will understand it more. Okay. And as it is also mentioned here, that these rules may include the calculation of financial figures, consolidation of data, currency conversion, intercompany eliminations, and more. Okay. So there's one more aspect here is it is it can be user defined business rule, and there are some system defined business rules as well. Like when you are loading the exchange rate in system, right? So system will automatically do the translation, right, based on what is the base currency assigned to the entity. Correct. Plus, on top of that, OneStream is highly customizable, and you can customize most of the rules that we got, right? And so business rules are to add custom. The example, if I'm creating a financial model, right? In that case, if I have to write a particular allocation, right? If I have to allocate let's say if I'm doing a target based allocation, right? So there will be a one top level value, and we have to allocate it to all their business units based on the actual sale percentage, right? So in that case, this calculation will be divided into two parts. One is calculate the actual share percentage, and then multiply that with your target number or the planned number. Okay. So this is a calculation that we have to perform, right? Calculation looks easy, but to do this in a multi-dimensional database structure, we might have to follow some rules or the logic so that it will be calculated and the resultant value will be loaded into a multi-dimensional data structure, right? So whenever we will be understanding or learning OneStream, understanding of the multi-dimensional database is very important. Okay, so gradually we'll go and deep dive more, and so that we'll understand it. Okay. Any questions till now? Okay. So if no, we will be jumping to application programming interface, APIs. I'm sure a lot of people must have heard about API. Hmm. Okay. So I mean API. So we can break it down into simple terms. Okay. And if I have to explain what API is with a real world example, I can explain you with one layman example. Consider, let's say, if you're going to a restaurant, right? You means the customer wanted to buy a specific dish, right? And wanted that to be prepared in the restaurant kitchen, right? Or the system can prepare, correct? But as you are in the restaurant as a customer, you cannot go to the kitchen by yourself to make it, right? So what you need a way to communicate your order to the kitchen, correct? So that your food will be prepared and come to your table, right? So this way, as you cannot go to the kitchen, this is where the waiter or the API will come in, because you need someone to take your order and take it to the kitchen, right? So that waiter is your API, right? So in this case, what will happen? The waiter will take your order, means the request, and communicates it to the kitchen and brings back your food, means the response, right? So in this scenario, you don't need to know how the kitchen works, right? And the kitchen doesn't need to know anything about you, right? So all the communications happen through waiter. So waiter is your API. Okay. So in the similar fashion, the API is like a waiter for any software application, right? And it is nothing but a set of rules that allow different software applications to communicate with each other. It takes a request from one system, communicates it to another, and then returns the response, right? So this allows different software system to interact without needing to know how each other is working. Example, if I have to pull a data from Hyperion to OneStream, because a lot of company used to do that, and they have to do if they are migrating from Hyperion to OneStream, right? And they will be having a lot of historical data that they might be migrating from Hyperion cube to OneStream cube, right? So in that case, connection can be established in multiple ways. You can do a API based connection. You can do a direct database connection. To do a direct database connection, you have to pull the data from Hyperion cube, load it into a database, and then on top of that, you can direct do a database connection and pull the data. If you directly wanted to pull the data from Sbase itself, you can run the reporting query, right? Pull the data using APIs and fed that API to OneStream, right? So ability to write a customizable code in OneStream gives it or makes it very customizable so that you can write or build any logic programmatically. OneStream understands VB.NET. Also, OneStream understands C Sharp. Okay, so C Sharp is something that came as a new programming language, but all the different versions of OneStream is capable to handle VB.NET code. Even all those connectors that we will be building, they all are built uh, with VB.NET. Okay, and ability to write code in VB.NET and C Sharp, it makes it very wide in terms of the feature that we can create and customize it. Okay, so if we are clear with APIs, I'm moving to
One question, for Power BI integration, API will work or like will do a different way?
so Power BI has their own APIs available, right? So we have to see what is the data size that we are going to pull from the Power BI, right? So it can be a database connection using the connection strings, or it can be a API based connections that OneStream can directly call this API and pull the data from the Power BI database and load that into OneStream Cube. So we have both the kinds of accesses are available based on the feature that Power BI gives, right? Or the size of data set. Because if we have a large data set, it is good to follow a API based connection, because API connection can be run in asynchronous mode, right? So the benefit of having an asynchronous mode of connection is we can call multiple APIs in multiple threads that will run in parallel, right? But we have to analyze whether it should be on what basis we will do the segmentation, right? So this is how we can interact with Power BI.
Any limit for the API's rows dataset?
I have not seen any as of now. Like only thing is, if I'm going with import, validate, and load, which is one of the out of box feature that OneStream used to load the data into OneStream. Import, validate is a stage area where we will be loading data, and from that stage to cube, right? This data will be loaded, right? So whenever we will be identifying the number of record that we are going to process within the import option of OneStream, we have an option to set the page size and the cache size. So as the number of records will increase, you have to increase the page size or the cache size so that OneStream will be able to handle that. And we have a documentation from OneStream what should be the page size and cache size based on the number of records you have, right? So we have to accordingly update these settings for every import valid load, and then it can be smoothly executed. Okay. Sometimes what I have seen is as the number of records will increase, okay, the loading process will be degraded. Okay. So in that case, what should happen is we have an option called, parallel execution, right? We can divide a same data set into multiple workflow, and based on that, we can parallelly execute these jobs. There's a method called, execute harvest parallel, right? In this way, using the batch automation, we can, parallelly run these two imports and make the, load faster. There are multiple ways also available, right, to increase the performance of the data load as the number of records are high, right? But I'll tell you, if I compare OneStream with Hyperion and other tools, OneStream is comparatively slow in terms of data loading process using import valid load. But there are some aspects that we can see, to improve that, right? So yeah, so this is a thing that we have to keep in mind while we are dealing with the large data sets.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll just add one more point here. If you see that you have, let's say, around 14 million record that you have to load, right? Instead of going through import valid load, we have a option called direct load as well, right? And we have a option called you can just read the data, store that into a global object, and directly write that data programmatically to your cube. This way also we can improve the performance of the load. Okay, coming back to the API and BR API, right? So as I mentioned here, OneStream XF software API and BR API are quite different from each other, right? Because as they are used in different fields for their different purposes, right? So API I already explained, right? So API are mostly used for financial consolidation, reporting, budgeting, and analysis, right? And BR API will be generally used for XFBR extender rules and the dashboard extender rules, right? There are few functions which are available in API as well as in the BR API. Reading API. Reading API is nothing but API that externally incorporated with OneStream. Right. What OneStream used to recommend is that all the financial rules that you're writing always use API. All the member formula that you're using always use API instead of BR API. Because what OneStream used to say is performance of the API is comparatively higher. So we have to always refrain using the BR API within the member formulas. Okay. Right. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. And if I talk about performance, if I have to write a cube calculation or a financial calculation, right, prefer using data buffers. And sometimes we will be writing the calculation using a pair of data calculate. Correct. So what is the difference between data buffer and calculate? We will be talking in further sessions. Here we'll focus on the added features that is coming with API and the BR API. Right. Most of the basics transactions that we have to do can be solved using the API based functions. But the benefit here that comes in with OneStream is we can also incorporate external DLLs, means external packages. Example, let's say if I have to do a data outbound from OneStream. Okay. So in that case, what you can do is data outbound means getting data from the cube and sending it outside of the cube. Let's say Power BI, if I have to create the reporting in Power BI, we can extract the data from OneStream and push it to Power BI. There can be multiple ways of doing that, right? So the ideal way is, let's say if I have a API level available for the Power BI, what we can do is we can just pull the data from OneStream, okay, convert that into a JSON object. Okay, why JSON? Because it will convert your tabular data into your serialized data, right, in the JSON format. So it's a good practice that sending data over network in the serialized manner, because serialized data, the chances are very low that a serialized data will be dropped while traveling to network, right? So converting into JSON is a good practice. It's not like you cannot do it in tabular format. That will also work, right? But doing is
Can you
serialization.
show one example, Jason, how it looks like? Like,
Okay, so if you want to see JSON, you can, we can see here. Okay, so this is one of the JSON format. Okay, where there are curly brackets and the data in between where employee is a tag, and this is the list. Okay, so this is a serialized data where it can be serialized and deserialized in the process of doing the API request, right? So let's say you're extracting the employee information from OneStream cube, and if you have to push it to the Power BI for reporting, you will be pulling it from OneStream. Serializing it means converting that into a JSON and then pushing it back to your Power BI. Power BI will read it back, will do a deserialization, and then store it into its database. Okay. So, what is the advantage will come here? The advantage is the chances of dropping of the data will be less when this data will be traveling through network. Okay. So this is how the serial data will look like. And it's a good practice that, converting a data into JSON and giving it to API so that it can be sent as a payload through the API. Right, because whenever we're doing this, it will go as a packet, right? So identifying JSON in the packet format will be comparatively easy. Okay, so that's why doing a JSON conversion, serializing data is a good practice while dealing with APIs. Okay, so API will also comes with an added feature that we call as security. Okay, because whenever we are doing a connection between two systems, right, it can be a peer-to-peer connection or it can be through a API layer between. So having a API layer in between will add more security to it, because for every transaction that we are doing, we will be doing one authentication, right? And the authentication can be of multiple types, right? It can be a header-based authentication. It can be a authentication credential that will be passing through the detail, right? We can be logging through the ID and password, correct? So having these security that will increase with the API interaction will also a good feature that we'll get with the APIs. Okay. Now I'm moving to this platform engine. So within OneStream, we have comprises of several different processing engines, each with unique responsibilities and API interface for their respective business rules. Right. So we have workflow engine, we have stage engine, we have finance engine, we have data quality engine, we have data management engine, we have presentation engine, and BR API. BR API is not an engine here. So uh, whenever we are building a process, whenever workflow will be in picture, the financial engine, the workflow engine will be active, right? While data import into OneStream, we will be loading into stage area. Then it will load in, and within the stage area, we have two sections. One is import, second is validate, right? So this data will be loaded in the stage area. So we have around six engines in OneStream called workflow engine. We have stage engine. We have finance engine. We have data quality engine. We have data management engine. We have presentation engine, right? So what all these engines are there? BR API is mentioned here, but it's not an engine, right? So what engine in OneStream is, and what are the use of different engines, right? So each of these engines have their unique responsibilities and API interface for their respective business rules. Okay. So let's say if I talk about workflow engineer, so this particular engine controls and track the status of the business process defined by the workflow hierarchy, right? And it can also enforce customers to specific business logic, right? Means whenever users will be interacting with the workflow process we will be creating, right, the workflow engine will be active, right? Right. Then the stage engine. So this engine transform external data into valid and click data points, because there will be a data from the source, either it coming from a database or it is coming from the API, right? It has to be passed into a tabular format. Even if I'm doing an integration with the API, the data will be coming in the JSON format. We have to deserialize that and load that into our stage area. And while the parsing will be happening, the stage engine will be in action, correct? It will be, the data will be transformed or mapped to a valid members defined by the finance engine, right? Because when I'm loading data into OneStream, we will be triggering a import validate load process. Import is a workflow component. Stage is a database where the data loads. And while data load, we have a second step called validate. And in the validation step, system is actually comparing the data that you loaded in the import stage with the metadata. And metadata is a part of finance engine, right? So when the metadata validation will be happening, right, at the time of transformation, where it is mapping your data with the valid members created in the metadata or the dimensions, right? Or it is getting mapped to a valid member, because whenever we are defining a transformation, we can only give the valid members present in the dimensions. We cannot map it to something which is not available, correct? So in that case, when the mapping will be happening at the time of data load, this action actually triggers the finance engine, where it has to pull the metadata, compare it with all the records you have, and it will kick out any of the data load in the validate step, right? Where it will say, okay, this particular member is not available. This particular record is invalid because the member that you're specifying for the business unit is not available, or a particular product is not available. Correct. So in this way, the financial engine will be in active state, right? So in a data load process, workflow engine, stage engine, finance engine, data quality engine, where let's say if I am giving any confirmation rule, right? Right. In that case, the data quality engine will be active. So internally, these are the different APIs being triggered, right? And they are part of different engines, right? So this data quality engine controls a different, as I said, confirmation uh, steps or the certification process, right? So this particular engine ensures the information submitted from a source system is correct, and it will also manages the user certification. We have a process called import, validate, load, process, certify, correct? So when user is actually certifying that, it means it is approved, and your particular workflow will be green, right? At the time, the data quality engine will be in action. Okay. Now the data management engine. So this engine provides a task automation service, right? So it executes batch of a command organized in a sequence or a step. Example, let's say you have 10 workflows, right, that you have to run as part of, let's say you are doing a MEC, right? MEC means month end closing. While let's say if you're doing C minus 3, C minus 2, C minus 1, then 1, 2, 3, like that. So in that case, whenever your data automation process will be running, your data management engine will be in action, right? So using data management engine, you can execute the batches, right? Because OneStream supports the batch execution, where using the batch files, you can actually trigger a workflow profiles. Right. We have this in one of the session. I think around 12 or 13 session, we will be talking about that, and we will see programmatically how a batch file can be created and how the harvest method will call these batches and the workflows can be automated. Right. Next is the presentation engine. So this particular engine manages and delivers content to the end user, just very clear with the name itself. All those interfaces that we are creating can be a report, can be a dashboard, correct? Or an interactive screen. Wherever the presentation part will come in, the presentation engine will be in action, right? So it's like whenever we are creating a solution in OneStream, all those engines will take their part and make sure the process is running smoothly, right? Because this is called the modular modular design of the solution, right? All the different modules are running independently and making sure that the particular process will not fail, because they're not dependent on anyone. They are running in a specific sequence, but there's no dependency on these engines to run in system. Okay. Now I'm moving to business rule classifications. So OneStream actually classifies business rules into two major categories. One is the shared business rule, and the second is item specific business rule. So what it mean? I think it's mostly clear with the name itself. Shared business rules are something which can be created within OneStream, and other type of business rules can call or use those business rules as a assembly or as a reference. Example, if I'm, let's say, writing, if I'm creating a utility in OneStream, right? And in that utility, I have a process where I have to, do a inbound of the data, where I'm pulling the data from Power BI or let's say SAP, right? I'm pulling the data. It will identify the number of records I pulled and the number of records that are left post massaging of the data. Then I'm loading the data to the queue. There's a sequence of steps that we have to follow. Okay. So in this process, at the end of the process, I have to send an email, right? Case number one. Case number two, if I have to do a outbound of the data, I will be pulling data from OneStream queue and sending that to the external system, right? In this case, uh, at the end of the process, I want to send an email, right? So email is the common feature that I need in the both the process. So there are two ways to do that. One is I will just write this send email feature in both the process separately, right? Or I will create a shared business rule, which is nothing but an extender rule to send the email. Okay. So I will define a particular method within the extender rule, right? Say send email whenever any process will be calling this method, right? So I'll create a shared rule in the extender rule with a method called send email. And this particular business rule I will use as a shared business rule because I will add this rule as a assembly to all the different processes, right? So how the assembly can be created, how a shared business rule can be created, right? We will see all this in the third session. Okay. So considering this in this particular slide, at core level, right, the business logics is executed as compiled by VB.NET and C Sharp, because at the end both are running on .NET only, right? So if I compare VB.NET and C Sharp, it is just a syntactical difference. There's nothing like we can achieve in C Sharp and cannot be achieved in .NET, or can be achieved in .NET and cannot be achieved in C Sharp. It's not like that. The same libraries are there, the same packages are there. It's our choice that which particular programming language or the syntax we want to apply or use. As of now, the newer version, which is 8.2, released, in that we can write C sharp rules for all the different level type of rules, but still the member formula uh, can be written in VB.NET only. It cannot be written in C sharp. Maybe OneStream will give this feature in the newer version, but as of now, this is the limitation. I'll see. Okay. And see, no matter what type of business rule is used, right, there's a consistency in the syntax and the compilation process, right, that we see within the business rule that we write in OneStream, right? And the reason for the different classification has to do with when and how the business logic is invoked and how the business rule is scoped. Okay. Because whenever we will be running or writing a financial rule, the rule can be invoked at the time of consolidation. It can be invoked through a dashboard. It can be invoked while opening a cube view. It can be invoked while loading a data, or it can be invoked on a scheduled basis based on what scheduler at what time we want to run. Okay. So that's why the business logic can be invoked or depends on the scope of that particular rule, right? So we'll talk about all these things. We have around 9 cases in the financial rule. We'll talk about those as well in further sessions. Okay. Any questions till now about the business rules, their categories, right? And their different classifications. Okay. I'll add few more points about the item specific business rules. When we are saying item specific business rule, what it mean? It means, let's say I'm creating a button, right? On click of a button of my uh, dashboard. Let's say I'm creating a dashboard. Within dashboard, I'm creating a button and creating a drop down, right? On click of that, I want to raise or create an event, right? Or on click of event, I have to make sure that I have to define that within the dashboard extender rule type, which is very much item specific, right? I have to create a grid view, right? So to create a grid view within OneStream, it is important that I have to write a data set rule. Okay. And if I'm defining a method in all these different type of business rules, it can be called or it cannot be called based on how I'm defining those. If I'm defining that as private, it can not be invoked from a different business rule type, right? So this way the rule can be classified. Okay. Okay, now I'm moving to one simple VB.NET program, and we'll try to understand every line of this code. And what it is doing? It is doing nothing but a hello world program. Okay, so this is written in VB.NET, right? The very first line we see here is imports system, right? So the import statement in the VB.NET is to include the namespaces. So here you see namespace, right? So this system is a namespace. In Python, we call it as a package, right? Let's say you're writing a Python code, right? So in that code, you must be, importing a lot of different packages for different functionality, right? Let's say if you have to uh, play with your Excel, right? You will be needing a package that can give you methods or functions to interact with Excel, correct? So here imports system is nothing but import is a keyword, right? And that keyword or I'll say statement will be used to include the namespace in the program. Correct. Now, if you ask me what is namespace, and in the VB.NET is to include the namespaces. So here you see namespace, right? So the system is a namespace. In Python, we call it as a package, correct? Let's say you're writing a Python code, right? So in that code, you must be, importing a lot of different packages for different functionality, right? Let's say if you have to play with your Excel, right? You will be needing a package that can give you methods or functions to interact with Excel, correct? So here imports system is nothing but import is a keyword, right? And that keyword or I'll say statement will be used to include the namespace in the program. Right. Now, if you ask me what is namespace, right? So namespace is nothing but a collection of classes, interface, structures, enum, delegates, right? So this is something which is a predefined namespace, right? You can also create your namespaces, right? And it's not like we can include only one namespace. We can include multiple, right? And we may have different namespace for events and event handling, interfaces, attribute, right? Even for exceptions, we can use this particular namespace. Next is the module program, right? So what this line is doing? So this line declares a module name called program, right? So module in VB.NET is like a container that holds a group of related methods and variables, right? So when the program is running, it will look for the main method. So when this will be running, it will be looking for the main method to execute. Okay, this is a very basic programming concept across all the different programming uh, programs or programming languages we have, right? Now, this line. So this line is nothing but defining the main method, which is a entry point for this program. Okay, so every program that is executable, right, starts from the main method. And what is this that we have written inside main? This. So this main method is taking an array of string as a parameter. So whatever we will write in the brackets, that is nothing but a parameter of this particular method, correct? And these are the arguments that are supplied by the command line. Okay, so command line is, so you must have heard about command line. So whenever we go to Windows and type CMD, you will see a command line, command prompt will be open, which is nothing but a black screen, right? So from that screen, if you have to trigger a particular program, you have to give a program name and then the arguments. So the argument that will be passing while running a method, sorry, while running a program, the arguments that will be passing along with the program name are the command line arguments, right? So these are arguments supplied by command line. And we can also read it within the program, right? But as it's a hello world program, there's nothing we are passing by calling it. Okay. So moving to next line, console.write line. Okay. So what it is doing? So this line calls the write line method from a console class. Okay. And this console class, it's a part of system namespace. Okay. So this write line is doing nothing but printing the string that we are passing as an argument in this method. Okay. Right. And then the end sub. End sub is just signifies the end of the main method or subroutine. In VB.NET, whenever we say sub means subroutine. Okay. And then the end module. And this particular keyword signifies the module is end here. Okay. So if I summarize everything in a single statement, so in simple terms, how I can say that when this program is running, it starts executing from the main method inside the program module, and it prints the hello world in the console. Okay, so this is how we can read a program. Going forward, when we will be writing a business rule in OneStream, this is how it will look like. And if you try to relate that, you will see a lot of similarities. Anyway, it's a VB.NET only, but uh, on top you can see some namespaces. Some are predefined, some are OneStream specific, and we are defining a namespace. This is the name of the namespace, and the class name is the main class, and the main method is being defined here. Okay, and I'm sure if you have seen OneStream before, this is kind of very familiar to you, correct? So now, if I talk about different terms that we see in any programming language. Okay, so can anyone explain what is class in perspective to any programming language? Anyone? Am I still connected or dropped again? Hello?
Yes, yes, sir. Audible.
So anyone want to try to explain what is class?
Hi. Class is class defines the variables or methods of particular object.
Variable and method of particular object. Okay. Okay, so let me tell you a few basic terms that we should be knowing while understanding any programming language. Like you should understand what class is. You should understand what interfaces is, what is structures, what is enum, what is delegates, right? So all these terms are very much related to the C and C++, right? If we have understood some programming terms while learning C and C++, right? These are the things that will come in uh, handy if you know that. Okay, so I'll just give you a simple definition for the class. It's nothing but a blueprint for creating an object, right? Whenever you will be creating an object of a class, right? So for a particular data structure, an object will be created, right? And class will actually define the properties or the data elements or the method is a function, right? And these are the objects that an class can have, or I say that these are the properties or method that an object can have. Okay, so within the class we may have instance variable, within the class we may have functions, right, where that we define. So whenever we create a class object, right, so it will be defining the properties, the methods, or of that particular object that we can have. Okay, so one liner, if someone will ask you what is class, you can say it's nothing but a blueprint for creating an object. And within that object, we will be having all these instance variables and the function that we define. Okay. Second term I said is interface. Okay. So interface in VB.NET is referred by the different define. It defines as a function signature. Okay. So any class or a structure that we implement, that interface must provide an implementation for each functions defined in the interface. Okay, so something similar what we create as a class, right? So the interfaces in VB.NET refers as a signature for the function. Okay, so I'll show you when we will be writing code. I will be giving you some examples how a class will look like whenever we will be defining, and how an interface will look like whenever we will be defining in our code. Okay, structure also is not a class, but it is very much similar to class, right? And we read about structures when we learn C++, right? C, I think structure is a part of C if we learn C++ in the right sequence, right? We have enums. Enums is also very looks similar to structure, but it is not structure. It's called enumeration or enums in VB.NET, right? And it's nothing but a set of names or a constant that we can define within that structure. Okay, there's one more term called delegates, right? So these are the few terms that we should be knowing, right? And delegates are very much similar to structure. We call it as a method signature again, right? But we call it as a type say function pointer, correct? So these are some tricky words that generally people use while we will be talking about the programming, correct? So we have to see these things practically and their use cases to understand it more, right? Now I'll go a little more further that how a business rule in OneStream can be categorized. We have talked about different two major categories here, correct? The shared business rule and the item specific business rule. And there's one more thing called the event handlers, right? So within OneStream, there are around 8 or 9 event handlers that we have, right? Example, if I'm clicking on an import button, or while data import, we have an option called clear data, right? On click of that clear data, there's an event that system is getting called, right? So only thing is we have to define that event handler so that whenever that particular event is happening, right, we can do some certain tasks, right? And what are those event handlers? These event handlers are data management event handlers, right? Whenever there's a data management job is running, these event handlers will be triggered. So the name of these event handlers is nothing but a predefined names of the business rule, And when we define these in the extensibility rule, these event handlers can be triggered, right? And on different actions, we can create a centralized logic so that whenever any data management will trigger in the OneStream, this particular event can be handled and execute a certain task. Example, you want to give or send an email on every data management execution. Either it is being executed on click of a button, or if someone is executing the data management by clicking on play in the data management, or a data management job is getting called through an API, right? Or data management will be triggered through a scheduler, or data management is triggered on the fly while opening a dashboard, right? Or selecting a drop down. So any kind of event which is running a data management, it is running a data management event handler, and within that event handler, you can define a certain steps or the process. Because what I want is on every execution of the data management job, I want to send an email, right? And how that send email will work is I have to define this particular send email method within the data management event handler, so that whenever any data management will be running, I can just identify the parameters that I am passing to the data management, and that event handler can read that and trigger that, right? So we will be reading about these event handlers as well. So what are the different event handlers we have? We have data management event handler, we have data quality event handler, we have form event handler, we have general event handlers, we have save data event handler. For example, I have a QBU. Within that QBU, I'm saving, let's say 100 and saving that. So on save, there's the event handler that is running. So on that event, put a check. Okay, if it is a negative value, I don't want to save it, right? So you can handle that. There's a transformation event handler. Let's say there's a transformation happening. So on every transformation that is running in system, a particular event can be executed, right? So that is will be handled through transformation event handler. And we can have a workflow event handler. We have a WCF event handler. Let's say I'm running import validate load. We have different options in that, right? We can clear the data. We can do a validate within the validate step, right? So there will be a sequence of event that will be triggered, right? While these particular events are getting triggered. Okay. Now, there's one more thing just came in my mind. We were talking about the shared business rules and the specific business rules, item specific business rules. So in the item specific business rules, what are those which are item specific? Example, let's say you are writing a member formula. That's the item specific business rule. Or you are writing a complex expression, right? Complex expression can be written in the data source. Complex expression can be written in the transformation logic or rules. A transformation that you have to do programmatically, right? A complex expression can be written in the conditional transformation rules. Okay, and a confirmation rule that we have to write. So it can be write in the interface that OneStream is giving, and the confirmation rule can also be written in the .NET as well, right? If you want a customized logic for our confirmation rule, that can also be written in there. Okay, so now if you see here in the screen, that within the main function we have different parameters that I'm passing, correct? And what are these? These are passing in the main function, right? So the SI is nothing but your session variable. So all those session related data will be in the session. So what are the different information that is available in the SI? So if you do a SI dot, you will see a app name you can fetch from this session. In your particular environment, let's say on a particular server, if you have two applications installed, now what you want is from application one, if you want to trigger a job in your another application, you can leverage this session and trigger a job in your application 2 from your application 1. What you can do is you can create a session object of your target application. Within the source application, use SI and create a target application session. So when you run a job from your source application and give a session of the target application, it will execute these rules or the data management or a job in your target application where you are pointing your session, right? So this way sessions can be used or useful. Okay. Now, second argument is globals, right? So globals is very useful in a lot of different cases. Let's say if I'm writing a finance rule, right? Or you are writing a, let's say, simple allocation logic, right? You have a target plan number and you want to allocate that number based on to your business, different business units, right? Now, on what ratio you will allocate that number? Let's say all these percentages are coming in your external table or coming outside OneStream. They are not within OneStream cube. So you have to read that percentage from an external table or an external database, and you're getting this external database object, right? So what you have to do is, whenever this particular API or data dot calculate will be running, right, you have to fetch the share percentage from an external table. So on every iteration, when this particular line will be executing, it will go to the table, it will find out the particular percentage for that particular business unit, it will multiply that value, right, and store in your cube. Means on every data unit there is a transaction going on to that external table. It will read the value, do a calculation, means multiplication with the plan number, and allocate that to the business unit. So you can imagine how many unique transactions that we have to do with the physical table. So what this global can do is, so this parameter can be used to store a global variable or data that can be accessed throughout the program or the application, right? So we will see definitely a live example in the upcoming sessions, how the globals will be leveraged and how it can actually improve the calculation performance 10x, right? Because what I will be doing on the very first iteration of this particular calculation, I will say, go to my table, read the values and store that in my global object and hold that object until my program is not completed. So I don't have to go to that table every time to fetch the information. I will be fetching from globals object that will be stored in my memory, right? So globals can actually improve the performance of the calculation, as we can reduce the number of transactions with the physical table or the external table, because there can be possibility that external table is a little laggy because it is not available in the system itself. It is in the network. Let's say if you have a snowflake as a database, right? And if you have to read those percentage from that snowflake, right? So in that scenario, on every iteration, if you can keep on doing a transaction with the external table, it will take, let's say, 3 or 4 seconds. And the collectively your rule may run for an hour if you have, let's say, a lot of business units in your process in the final statement for which you are doing the allocation, right? So globals can be useful in that manner. We'll see example in upcoming sessions. Okay, now coming to API. Okay, so it's an object for the financial rule API, right? And this API is nothing but it is representing as an instance for the financial rule API class, right? So what is the use case here? It is generally used to identify the financial rule API and performing various operations like taking the action, or you can see the API data calculate is also defined within the API, correct? So if you will not define the API on top, API or data.calculate cannot be executed. So that's why API is important here. Okay. Next is the arcs, right? So the type of the arcs here is, I think the screenshot is a little bit cropped from the right. It is of the type of financial rule arcs, right? So what is financial rule arcs? So for every type of rule, we have a different set of arguments that we can pass, right? Because this is a financial rule. When we will running this rule, we will be calling it through one of the data management, which is of custom type, right? So through that custom data management type, whenever I will be calling this particular rule, I might have to give some arguments along with that, right? Example, if you row number 26, row number 26 is nothing but a if statement where it is checking whether my arcs.custom calculate arc function name should be copy plan final. So whenever I will be calling this particular finance rule, it is checking whether my function name is copy plan final or not, right? So ability to read the function name which is being passed through a custom calculate data management sequence, right? These arcs are useful. Not only function name, we can pass some values to this particular calculation, and that can be passed through arguments. Okay, not only function name, there are a lot of other methods, a lot of other things that we can pass as an argument, and that can be leveraged to your finance rule. Okay, So in this rule, what we are doing at high level, we are doing a copy of plan working data to your plan final data, right? That's why plan final is written on the left hand side and plan working is written on the right hand side. And there's a true also we are passing as a second argument, right? So this second argument is nothing, but you're telling your method that whatever the data that you will be copying from plan working to plan final, it should be durable data, right? So what is durable calc, right? What is durable data or non-durable data? How, why it is important, right? All those things we will be covering in the next session when we will be actually writing a live calculation, and we'll talk about this different parameters that we can pass, how we can pass the filters, how the different kind of expressions can be written, how the expression balancing is required, what are the different methods that are available to make a particular expression balance, right? And what should be the thought process that we have to put while writing a simple calculations in OneStream. Okay, so before that we will be also understanding about the data units, right? And so these things will be coming in the next sessions. Okay. So instead of by well, you can also write by ref. Okay, so whenever you are calling a method, okay, you have to say or you have to mention you are calling by value or calling by reference. You must have heard of this term, call by value and call by reference, right? Call by value means whenever you are calling a method with the call by value, it will create a copy of the value that you are passing as an argument, and then the function will be using that value in the function definition. But if you will be passing value as a by ref, means it will be taking a copy of the object, right, while you are calling that method, right? So that whenever there's a change in that particular value, it will be actually changed in the real value of the method. Example, you will be creating, let's say you will be creating a method called sum a plus b. Okay, so a comma b will be your sum method arguments, right? So if I will be defining a and b, okay, so let's say I'll say sum by well a by well b. Okay, so here if I say b is equal to a or a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. Okay, so in this what will happen whenever I will be calling this method? Okay, let's say here I'll define a is equal to 20, b is equal to 10. Okay, so one thing you notice, initially the value of a and b is 20 and 10, right? Now if I call this function where I'll pass a comma b, so whenever I'm doing this, what will happen? System will pass a and b to this method. It will go here and it will create a different copy of the value. Okay, and then 10 will be assigned to a and 20 will be assigned to b. Means the actual value of a and b is not changing in this case. Means under the main function, if I print again a and b, still the value of a and b will be 20 and 10 only in the main function, right? But if I say by ref, means I'm creating an object as a reference, right? So it is not actually creating a copy of a and b. It will be pointing to a only, which is being defined in the main function. So if after calling this function, even I'm not returning anything from this function, the value of a and b will be changed because it is called by reference. Okay, so this is how the object reference can be taken, and in that case you don't have to return a value. You don't have to do a return like that, right? If I do a sum of a and b and return as c, correct? In that case, even if I not return anything from this particular sum function, I think this is a very common feature which is available across any programming language. Even in C and C++, we can do a call by reference. We can give a pointer object, And in that case, on a pointer, we can do that. But here in .NET, you can do it with by value and by ref. Okay. Okay, so I think this is all from my side with respect to whatever we have seen and understood about the OneStream business rules. Uh, is there any question that you want to add or ask? Okay, so I'll just take it as no, and just wanted to mention here, is anyone wanted to know anything about the further sessions, how we'll be going ahead with that, and if you have any question related to the training that we are going to continue, you can ask here. Yeah, and in case if you want to ask something one-to-one, you can